I never imagined that fixing a broken light would reveal the heartwarming story of a single dad. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. I stood there, staring at that flickering bulb, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on my chest. My hands trembled as I reached for the switch, desperate to bring light back into the gloomy room that had swallowed my hopes. In the shadows, I could hear the faint sound of a child's laughter, a reminder of the joys I thought I lost. It echoed in my mind, slicing through the heavy silence like a knife. My son, Tommy, was just on the other side of that dark door. I could feel his little heart beating, unaware of the chaos vibrating through the house. His innocence made me want to scream and cry all at once, and my memories came flooding back. Mike, the one person I thought would always be there. He left, just like that, without a word. No goodbyes. No explanations. Just emptiness where love used to dwell. It wasn't just a light bulb that broke, it was everything. The laughter turned into silence. The warmth turned into cold, dark nights shrouded in uncertainty. I pulled the old lamp closer. It looked worn, like it had been fighting its own battles. Little did anyone know, it had a secret. In the tangled wires and faded fabric, there was a story waiting to be told. A story of a father who struggled, who wept alone in the night, lost in a whirlwind of his own making. There was something about that bulb. As I unscrewed it, my heart raced. What if beneath the surface, I uncovered the truth of a life once filled with hope? The flickering light could reveal moments lost, laughter that echoed through a house that felt empty now. What if I found pieces of my broken heart in the warmth of its glow? Just then, a loud noise snapped me out of my reverie. Was it Tommy? My heart pounded in my chest. I glanced toward his door, wondering if he could sense my turmoil. The other children in the neighborhood had been playing outside, their joyful shouts dampening my despair. It seemed like the world moved on, while I remained frozen in this moment of heartache and longing. I readied myself to change that light bulb. I felt an uncanny energy in the air, an electric buzz that tingled against my skin. What was it? A pulse of hope, or a flicker of dread? I hesitated, questions swirling in my mind. What if this small act, a simple fix, held the key to more than just light? What if it uncovered truths that threatened to destroy me, or moments that could heal? When I finally twisted the new bulb in place, a warmth spread through my fingers as if it was welcoming me back into life. I swallowed hard. The moment was heavy, filled with anticipation. Would it bring clarity? Or would it only draw out deeper shadows? There it was, the space around me holding its breath, the darkness quaking in fear of the light I hoped to summon. And then, I flipped the switch. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The bulb illuminated the room, casting a soft glow that danced across the walls, chasing away shadows that had taken residence for far too long. For a fleeting moment, I felt a flicker of what once was an echo of laughter, of warmth, of love, and it curled around my heart like an embrace. But that warmth was quickly smothered by the cold reality of my situation. Tommy's laughter echoed in my memory, a vibrant reminder of the carefree days before Mike left. Losing him was like losing the sun. Everything felt dimmer, colder. I blinked away, a rising tide of tears, overwhelmed by everything I hadn't said, everything I didn't understand. I took a step back, embracing the light but aware that it illuminated not only the present, but also the past, its cracks and fractures exposed like the walls of my heart. As I moved to the living room, I felt both connected and disconnected from everything and everyone. Outside, the neighborhood bustled with life, a world filled with play and laughter, while I remained a bystander. The sound of a ball bouncing against pavement paired with children's joyous screams both warmed and broke me. In my mind, it played like a cruel soundtrack, a reminder that my son was missing out on so much. Tommy, I called, my voice fragile in the air. I found him in the corner of the living room, surrounded by crayons and sheets of paper, lost in a world of imagination. The sight tugged at my heart, and I felt the edges of my smile stretching wide. "What are you drawing, buddy?" He looked up, his face lighting up like the bulb above us. "A rocket ship. I'm going to fly to the moon." His eyes sparkled with ambition, untainted by the reality lurking just outside our door. "That's amazing." I knelt beside him, hoping to share in his joy, even if just for a moment. If only the world could be as simple as colors and dreams. Yet as he enthusiastically explained each detail, the happiness in his voice clashed with the heaviness in my chest. That evening, after settling Tommy into bed, I lingered in the doorway, watching him drift off. The glow from the bulb lit the room gently, creating a cocoon where innocence still thrived. I paused, heart racing, as I heard a soft knock at the door. My heart sank. Who could it be? When I opened the door, there stood Mrs. Klein, the elderly neighbor with kind eyes, holding a plate of cookies and an understanding smile. "I brought these over," she said, her voice gentle, almost conspiratorial. "I thought you and Tommy could use a treat." I was taken aback, warmth flooding my heart at her unexpected kindness. "Thank you, Mrs. Klein. I really appreciate this. Just remember," she continued, her eyes searching mine, "you're not alone. We're all here for you." In that moment, her words wrapped around me like a warm blanket. It felt unbearably good to have someone acknowledge my strugglito, see me, not just the facade of coping I had plastered on. After she left, I sat at the kitchen table with the cookies before me, my mind racing. Her kindness had been a spark, yet anxiety soon crept in. What if I couldn't provide, couldn't be the dad Tommy deserved? With Mike gone, every decision I made felt like a boulder resting atop my chest. That I picked up a cookie, but it felt heavy in my palm, a physical manifestation of my guilt. The sweetness on my tongue should have been comforting, but its flavor faded like the love I had lost. I couldn't shake the feeling that shadows still loomed over us. Was I doing everything right? Was I enough? Suddenly, there was a loud thump from Tommy's room. I jumped to my feet, heart pounding, an uneasy sense of dread swirling in my gut. "Tommy," I called, moving toward his room. As I stepped inside, the glow from the lamp flickered, catching my eye. Tommy was sitting up, tears spilling down his cheeks. "Mommy, I had a bad dream." I rushed to his side, scooping him into my arms. "It's okay, sweetheart. I'm right here." I could feel my own heart splintering at the sight of his desperation. I wished I could banish his fears as easily as extinguishing a candle. The enormity of his sadness washed over me. With each of his sobs, my thoughts spiraled. How could I promise him safety when my world felt so precarious? I rocked him gently, shushing him softly, all while hiding my own trembling heart. Just then, the bulb overhead flickered ominously, casting a wave of shadows across the room. For a split second, fear gripped me, just about the darkness that threatened to encroach, but for the reality that I was about to face, the emotional sludge of my own fears and insecurities. "It'll always be here," I whispered, not knowing if I was declaring a promise or pleading for reassurance myself. As sleep beckoned him once more, I settled beside him, intent on holding the shadows at bay for just a bit longer. But just as I thought we had found a moment of peace, a loud crash echoed from outside, accompanied by frantic voices. My heart dropped into my stomach, but just as I turned to rush toward the sound, my phone buzzed with a message. Glancing down, my breath caught. It was from Mike. "I need to talk. Urgently." The world spun around me, the heaviness of the moment crashing in like a wave. My heart raced not just at his words, but at the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Was I ready to face him? Or would this bring everything crashing down around us once more? The urgent message from Mike felt like an electric jolt, shaking me from the fragile cocoon I had wrapped around myself. I wished I could bask in the warmth of those cookies, in the sweet innocence of Tommy's laughter, but the weight of the past loomed, a dark presence that couldn't be ignored. That I stared at my phone, the screen illuminating my face like a lighthouse cutting through the fog. What did he want? While a part of me longed for some closure, another part was terrified of what he might say. My finger hovered over the screen, contemplating a response that could either ignite hope or plunge me back into despair. "Mommy." Tommy's voice broke through my reverie. Head settled back down, but his eyes were wide and watching me carefully. The innocence in his gaze nudged me forward, forcing me to redirect my focus to him. "Everything is okay, buddy. Just a message," I replied, tucking my phone away. I needed him to believe that I had the situation under control, despite the tumbling chaos within me. I took a deep breath and lifted him back into my arms, cradling him close as he snuggled against my chest. As I rocked him gently, I whispered stories of the brave astronauts who flew to the moon, as he dreamed of doing just that with his crayon rocket ship. Each story felt like a bandage, painstakingly applied to the wounds that still festered. I knew that as long as he could dream, there was a flicker of light I could hold on to. Yet, the truth tugged at me relentlessly. Dreams felt futile when reality threatened to crumble. The crash I had heard outside echoed in my mind, twisting into a knot of dread. I could let the night unfold, a sea of unknowns. Or just maybe, it could summon enough courage to face the storm brewing beyond our walls. With Tommy safely cocooned in sleep, I tiptoed out of his room. The hall was dimly lit, shadows stretching ominously, and I drew in a shaky breath before peering out the window. The streetlights flickered against the chaos that had unfolded across the street, a scuffle between two neighbors, a shattered bottle glimmering dangerously among the scattered glass. Voices rose, sharper than a knife's edge. It was a world I navigated awkwardly, but one I couldn't shield Tommy from. The sudden surge of courage took hold, and I decided I needed to understand what was happening. My heart drummed loudly in my chest as I made my way outside, the cool air lacing my skin with goosebumps. Each step felt like a leap into unknown territory, the heaviness of dread mingling with the adrenaline of involvement. As I approached the chaos, I caught snippets of conversation, harsh words spitting across the space. Sensible or not, I could not stand aside. "Hey," I called out, my voice both hesitant and resolute. "Can we calm this down?" Some turned in surprise, and I felt their gazes bore through me. Conflict faded momentarily, curiosity taking its place as they recognized a familiar face. One voice rose above the rest. "You should go back inside, miss. It's not safe out here, no." "I'm staying," I declared, forcing my resolve against the tide of panic that urged me to retreat. I tried to appear stronger than I felt, in hopes that my presence would help quell the tension. Even as fear pricked at my spine, I emerged as a voice of reason, however misplaced that might have been. And then, something remarkable happened. From the edge of the crowd, a man stepped forward. His face, though weathered, exuded a quiet strength, and for a brief moment, his expression softened. "Let's take it down a notch, shall we?" "This isn't the way." The intensity of the moment shifted, guided by an unexpected act of kindness amid raging emotions. The murmurs subsided, and hands that once gestured threateningly now moved to patch invisible rifts. It was the first breath of hope I had inhaled in days. As I retreated back to my home, heart still racing, the heaviness felt fractionally lighter. As I closed the door behind me and leaned against it, my pulse steadied. Maybe tonight hadn't been solely about darkness. Perhaps it was a reminder that even amidst chaos, light could filter through the smallest cracks. But then, just as relief washed over me, my phone buzzed again with another message from Mike. I hesitated, looking over at Tommy's door. Should I read it now? Would it disturb the fragile peace we had just found? I felt the uncertainty coil tightly around my heart once more. Finally, I tapped the screen, the message revealing just 2 words. "It's urgent." A new wave of anxiety surged through me, far more potent than the earlier turmoil outside. Before I could process my next move, the sound of a far-off siren wailed through the night, echoing the deeper alarm bells ringing in my chest. Something was about to shift irreparably, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it would alter everything I had fought to hold together. I leaned against the cool wood of the door, a heartbeat in the quiet as I contemplated Mike's message. "It's urgent." The words danced menacingly in my mind, like shadows that threatened to engulf the flickering light. An urgency I wasn't prepared to meet threatened to unravel the peace I'd managed to grasp. That I glanced at Tommy's door, knowing that any disturbance would shatter the fragile tranquility that surrounded him. But if I let this moment stretch too long, I feared the looming darkness would swallow me whole. The night had shown me a thread of kindness amid chaos. Perhaps it was time to reach for that thread again. Maybe, just maybe, Mike's message could lead me towards a different light, one I could share with Tommy, instead of the one that haunted my past. Without another thought, I grabbed my phone and stepped into the kitchen, letting the familiar scent of baked cookies drift through the air, weaving a comforting cocoon around me. It was a sanctuary amidst the brewing storm. I needed space to breathe, to think. The warmth of the oven soothed me, and I felt my resolve strengthen as I stared at the bright screen. Mike's name blinked at me like a siren call, and I could almost hear the weight behind the urgency. I took a breath before typing, "What's going on?" Seconds felt like hours as I awaited his response, the hum of the house amplifying my anxiety. Suddenly, as if sensing my dread, Tommy's small voice floated through the door. "Mommy, can I have some cookies now?" His sweet thirst for normalcy tugged at my heart, and I knew I had to keep it that way for him. "Yes, buddy. Just a minute," I called back, forcing a smile as warmth flooded through my veins. My phone buzzed again, and I glanced down, my heart sinking. Mike had replied, "We need to talk. It's about Charlie." My mind raced. Charlie. The name felt like an anchor, stretching into my past, reminding me of the fractures that had never healed. Tommy, curling around the kitchen table with his crayons and paper, looked up at me with those wide, innocent eyes, and in that moment, I was pulled in two directions. One road led back into the complexities of my past, into a conversation that could reopen wounds. The other road opened a new one that could reshape my connection with Tommy and lead to healing in unexpected ways. Caught between these worlds, I felt the weight of my choices press heavily against my chest. Should I reach for the past and confront what lay there? Or should I shield Tommy from the shadows, letting him dance in the light of our current happiness? The dilemma gnawed at me, the pressure climbing. "Can we have a cookie party?" Tommy piped up, breaking through my frantic thoughts. The excitement in his voice threaded through the tension. He beamed at me, his tiny hands moving animatedly as if he were a conductor leading an orchestra of joy. It was so simple, yet so beautiful. I smiled, allowing that brief joy to seep into the contours of my worries. "That sounds perfect. We can even make it a celebration of the brave astronauts." As I bent down to grab the cookie jar, Tommy squealed with delight, and I felt a surge of warmth surmount the cold tide of anxiety. In these little moments, I saw what mattered: the laughter, the sweetness of sharing, the illusion of time standing still. It was a welcome distraction, and for a moment, the world outside faded into oblivion. Yet, in my chest, an insistent thrum reminded me of the seismic shift awaiting me. What would Mike say about Charlie? With cookies in both our hands, Tommy and I settled onto the couch, giggles bubbling forth. I tried to banish thoughts of darkness, focusing instead on the sweetness we were creating. But just as the warmth spread through my heart, my phone buzzed again, the sound slicing through the pure moment like a knife. "Please come." Mike's message was more pleading than before. Panic swept through me, unraveling the joyful tapestry we had begun weaving. Tommy was oblivious to the turmoil flickering behind my eyes, absorbed in munching on his cookie, but I knew I could no longer ignore the pull of my past. Sliding my phone into my pocket, I turned to Tommy, who wore frosting on his cheeks like a badge of honor. "Hey, buddy, would you like to help me with something special?" His eyes sparkled with curiosity. "What is it, Mommy?" "I need to go see a friend," I replied slowly, my voice trembling at the admission. "Will you stay here and finish your art? Can I draw a spaceship?" he asked enthusiastically. "Absolutely." I kissed his forehead, trying to hold tightly to the hope that tomorrow would uphold the light I saw in him. That very hope felt fragile, like the glass shards I had glimpsed across the street, glimmering in the moonlight. I took a deep breath as I stepped toward the door, heart pounding like a drum. Was I heading towards peace or chaos? The uncertainty twisted in my gut like a serpent, whispering fears about what revealing the past might mean. Before I stepped outside, I turned one last time to see Tommy engrossed in his masterpiece, the sight soothing my restless spirit. Just as I reached for the doorknob, my phone buzzed once more, an unexpected sound that felt like a ticking clock. "Come to the park. I can explain everything." My breath hitched as I stared at the message, the chilled edges of dread creeping back into my mind. A part of me knew this was where the truth lay: the past I had tried so hard to shield, now beckoning me towards an unavoidable confrontation. I looked back inside, drew a deep breath, and stepped out into the night. There was no turning back now. The journey to the heart of the storm awaited, and who knew what revelations lay on the other side. The park was bathed in eerie moonlight, the shadows stretching like dark fingers, twisting through the tall grass. I could hear the distant laughter of children and the soft rustle of leaves dancing in the light breeze. This place had always held a certain magic for me, a sanctuary full of memories, laughter, and fleeting moments of freedom. Tonight, however, it felt like a stage set for the play of my life, bringing the unresolved threads of my past into sharp focus. As I made my way down the familiar path, every step felt weighted with hesitation. Memories flashed through my mind. Afternoons spent here with Charlie, the way he used to chase after fireflies, and the careless joy he exuded, unbinding me from the chains of guilt that always lingered. The laughter of children floated like distant music, contrasting the turmoil brewing in my heart. A deep breath steadied me as I steeled myself for the confrontation ahead. Rounding a corner, I spotted Mike sitting alone on a bench, his silhouette stark against the dim light. His face was shadowed, but I could make out the worry etched across his features. When he looked up and met my gaze, a tumult of emotions swirled within Meerleaf: dread, apprehension. Would he bring news of Charlie that I wasn't prepared to handle? "Thanks for coming," Mike said, his voice low but firm. I noted the small tremors in his hands as he gestured for me to sit beside him. The openness of the park made everything feel too exposed, like the walls had ears, tangible reminders of the secrets we were about to unravel. I said about Charlie. The question forced itself out before I could temper the sharpness. Even saying his name summoned a rush of memories that clawed at my heart. Mike nodded slowly, his expression grave. "I didn't know how to tell you this. I've been trying to find the right moment," he began, casting his gaze off into the abyss of the night. "How bad is it?" My voice trembled, the weight of dread coiling painfully in my stomach. "It's complicated," he said. "But I think it's important you know that he's okay. More than okay, actually. He's with us, Kevin and me. We've been looking after him." A rush of confusion washed over me, mingling with a small flicker of relief. Looking after him? Since when? Why didn't I know? Because Mike hesitated, hand rubbing the back of his neck. "Because he was happy, you know. We thought maybe it would be better if you didn't have to worry, especially after everything that's happened." The space between us felt suddenly charged, like the calm before a storm. A tiny part of me wanted to believe it thought of Charlie being safe, loved, even yet another part yearned to grasp the reality of the situation and bring truth to light. "What do you mean, everything that's happened?" My heart raced as I pressed for more, the desire for full disclosure clashing against the fear of what I might uncover. Taking a deep breath, Mike's face darkened. "It's the past, Sarah. Charlie struggles with it. We all do. But he's taken to spending time with us, and we've connected like family. I didn't want to cloud that with concerns for you." My stomach churned as I tried to make sense of his revelations. "So you've just kept him away? You think I wouldn't want him back? I am his mother." My voice broke, the anguish spilling over the damn ID tried so hard to maintain. "I know," Mike replied urgently, eyes pleading for understanding, "but he carries the weight of your pain, and sometimes it's suffocating him. He needs time, maybe not in the way we originally thought." A tightness gripped my throat, the struggle for composure rising like a tidal wave. Slowly, clarity emerged amid the fog of emotions. Beneath the turmoil, an unwavering love for my son began to surface, igniting a flicker of determination. "I need to see him," I said, my voice trembling yet resolute. "I need to help him carry that weight, not run from it." Mike's gaze softened, gratitude flooding his features. "I think that's the only way forward. I've spoken to Charlie about this, and he's missed you. Maybe it can be different if we work together, for him." Before I could respond, Mike leaned closer, an unexpected spark of intensity igniting his tone. "But there's something else. Something I haven't told you. It concerns Charlie and the way he bonds with you. It affects him more than I realized." "More?" My heart raced, drawing strands of fear tighter within my chest. "What do you mean?" "Charlie shares a bond beyond just mother and son. He's carrying something that's caught in between your past and his future, which is why I didn't want to involve you without thinking it through. There's a reason he feels burdened, and I fear it's tied to more than just loss." As the weight of his words fell over me like a heavy fog, logic began to crack. Could there be more to Charlie's silence, his pain, than the shadows of our shared history? What had he inherited from me, and what had I left unspoken? Just as I was about to ask more, something shifted in the air, an ominous crackle that sent a shiver down my spine. The laughter from the playground faded abruptly, replaced by a crushing silence. A figure loomed in the distance, approaching with purpose. It was too dark to see clearly, but I could feel the energy pulsating from this Nakamura, potent mixture of dread and familiarity. My heart dropped as I realized who it was, and suddenly, the deeper scars of the past surged back, demanding their place in the story I had tried so desperately to rewrite. "Mike," I whispered, panic creeping into my voice. "I think someone's been following us." He shifted nervously, glancing over his shoulder. The air thickened with an impending confrontation, and I felt the world tilt dangerously, spinning on the edge of uncertainty. Whatever should have remained hidden was now rushing in, demanding to be faced. And with it, the answers I sought may no longer be in my control. The figure came closer, the crunch of gravel beneath boots unmistakable in the stillness of the park. Panic surged through me, each heartbeat echoing in my ears. I glanced at Mike, whose eyes widened with concern, mirroring my own trepidation. "Stay behind me," he whispered, rising cautiously from the bench while positioning himself protectively. But instinct propelled me forward, not out of any foolish bravery, but the desperate need to confront my own shadows. I could almost taste the mix of fear and uncertainty that engulfed the air, thick enough to choke on. The silhouette materialized into a face I recognized all too well. A chill raced up my spine as the familiar features crystallized under the moonlight. It was Greg, the man who had walked away, leaving our fragile family to shatter like glass. His presence felt like a jagged edge against the soft, worn fabric of my heart. "Sarah," he uttered, his voice an unsettling blend of surprise and a hint of something else, regret, perhaps. "I thought I'd find you here. What do you want?" I snapped, every ounce of anger igniting within me. "You have no right to come into my life after all this time." He took a step closer, hands raised defensively. "I didn't come to cause trouble. Just hear me out. Please." My breath hitched, the bitterness swirling between us like smoke. Memories rushed back, uninvited. Nights spent waiting for him to return, days filled with silence that wrapped around me like a suffocating blanket. Could someone who had left so easily also want to return? "Charlie needs me. Not you." I spat, the pain of our past cleaving my resolve in two. "Charlie," Greg's voice softened, his gaze momentarily shifting towards my keen acknowledgement of the bond one was trying to nurture with my son. "I know you're worried, but I've been watching. He needs his family, the whole family. That includes me." I see knot twisted in my gut. Had Greg truly come to reach out? Or was this yet another attempt to assert his place where he had long abandoned it? "And you think it's okay for you to just waltz back into our lives? You have no idea what Charlie's been through since you left." "I know more than you think," he interjected, stepping forward again. I followed him. "I've watched him from a distance because I couldn't bear being that man who hurt you both. I wanted to fix things. I'm trying to fix things." The vulnerability in his gaze, raw and urgent, tore at the walls I'd built around my heart. Could it be that he truly wanted to make amends? Yet, every muscle in my body screamed against the idea. "What do you know?" I demanded, shaking with a mixture of anger and fear. "What could you possibly know about his pain? You weren't there when I saw him." He cut in, his voice trembling with emotion. "I saw his hurt, the way he looks at the world haunted. I saw that you've been a shadow of yourself since I left, and it killed me to know I played a part in that." Silence enveloped us, a stifling cocoon. As my heart grappled with the truth of his words, I felt the battle for control slip further away from me. What would be left to salvage if Greg took his place? "Stop pretending to care if you're just here for the appearance of it," I blurted, desperation fueling the confrontation. "You've shown us nothing but abandonment. We don't need you now." But doubt flickered within me like an unsteady flame. Would his presence only draw Charlie back into the darkness? Yet another reminder that the ground beneath us felt tenuous at best. "Just let me explain," Greg pleaded. "He'll prove it to you. I've made mistakes, but I need you to trust me again for Charlie's sake. I can help. I understand more than you think." "Help?" My voice cracked, the weight of his proposition battering me. How could I let the man who had walked away once again march into my life, stirring chaos where I sought solace? "How could I trust you again?" "I'm not asking you to forget," he said, guilt painting his features. "Just give me a chance to atone for what I did. Times have changed, and Charlie needs all of us to be whole again. The bitterness surged once more, building a bubble of resolve within my chest. The thought of reuniting, of risking another heartbreak, of opening the door to the possibility of hurt yet again. It terrified me. Just then, Mike stepped forward, breaking the suffocating tension. Whatever wounds you've opened, Greg, right now it's about Charlie. She's right to be cautious, but if there's a chance to heal, to bring him back to us, we need to consider it. Greg nodded slowly, an earnestness edging into his gaze. They'll do whatever it takes, he said, voice steady. The sincerity washed over me, but could it clear the fog of mistrust? Inside, I wrestled with hope and skepticism, battling my instinct to shove him out and my desire for reconciliation. That a rustle broke the moment, startling us both. A faint noise erupted from the darkness, followed by a panicked voice. I recognized immediately the unmistakable sound of Charlie, calling out for me, "Mom." His voice echoed through the night, laced with urgency and fear, cutting through my uncertainties with all the sharpness of a knife. "Charlie," I shouted, desperation clawing at my throat. Every instinct told me to run to him, yet a heavy hand of dread held me back. As the figure emerged from the shadowy embrace of the trees, the glow of the moon revealed the frightened look on Charlie's face. His eyes darted between me and the man I thought I'd never see again. In that moment, everything trembled with immensity, past colliding with the present, uncertainty tangled with hope. I had to choose, and somehow, the decision felt larger than just me. "Mom," he cried, voice thick with worry that pierced my heart. "We need to go? Now." And just like that, the haunting echoes of my son's fear pulled me into action, forcing me to confront what I had long been avoiding. I was no longer just fighting the past. I had to protect the future. What lay ahead was unknown, yet I could feel the gravity of our bond, the pulsing heart of resilience ready to unfurl amidst the uncertainty, even as shadows danced dangerously close. But would I find the strength to embrace that uncertainty? Or would it shatter the fragile thread of hope we had begun to weave? As I reached for Charlie, the weight of those questions echoed in my heart, a cacophony I could no longer ignore. And there, under the haunting moonlight, a new chapter of our lives awaited, just out of reach, cloaked in both fear and unfathomable possibility. I fell into the rhythm of Charlie's urgency, his small hand slipping into mine as we ran. The cool night air whipped against my face, mixing with the pulse of adrenaline and fear. My heart raced not just from the chase, but from the realization that everything was unraveling before me. The man who walked away was now drawn back into our tangled narrative, and Charlie could only see the danger was a danger, or something else entirely. The path home loomed ahead, familiar yet charged with a tension that threatened to overshadow the little moments of peace I had fought so hard to cling to. Panic surged again, but I stifled it, focusing on the weight of Charlie's hand in mine. He needed me to be strong, not just for him, but for myself, the woman he believed I could still be, despite the uncertainty swirling around us. "Tell me what's wrong," I urged Charlie as we neared the fading light of our porch. His face was pale, eyes wide, and for a brief, crushing moment, all the fears I carried within me erupted. "I thought I saw someone," he stammered, shivering slightly. "In the woods. I thought it was him." "Who? A stranger?" I pressed, heart clenching at the idea. Charlie nodded, his breath shaky. "I didn't want to get close. I felt like I needed to find you." Relief mixed with a deeper concern, and I crouched to be level with him. "Charlie, listen to me. We're safe now." "You're safe," I assured, forcing the tremor from my voice. "Whatever you thought you saw, it was just shadows. It's only the dark playing tricks on you. It did feel like that," he whispered, his gaze darting towards the trees, where the moonlight struggled to pierce the foliage. But then it felt real. I wanted to offer solace, to wrap him in reassurance, but the echo of Greg's presence lingered. "You're brave," I said, swallowing back my own trepidation. "Braver than I am." The door clicked shut behind us, sealing out the chill of the night. A shiver of resolve coursed through me. With Charlie nestled safely in my embrace, I felt the boundaries of my heart begin to shatter, each fragment seeking out the light I had all but given up on. "Can I have some water?" Charlie asked, his small voice breaking the silence in the cozy corridor. I nodded, grateful for the simplicity of this fleeting reprieve from the emotional hurricane that had just swept through our lives. As he padded towards the kitchen, I inhaled deeply, allowing the comfort of home to wrap around me like a blanket. But warmth was fleeting, fading away with thoughts of Greg, his unresolved presence haunting the edges of my thoughts. What had he meant about watching Charlie? Did that mean more than what he had said? Worry hopscotched along my skin, igniting a spark of fury. Charlie returned, water in hand, and I ruffled his hair, trying to ease the uneasiness between us. "You okay?" I asked, watching as he took a slow sip. "Yeah," he murmured, though his eyes betrayed him. They were stormy, filled with thoughts too complex for his young mind. "Can I ask, do you think Dad really wants to help?" The question landed with the weight of brick. I hesitated, struggling to articulate the tangled mess that was my heart. "I hope he does. But we have to be careful, honey. Trust isn't easy to rebuild." "Can it be rebuilt?" he pressed, his voice small but filled with an earnestness that twisted within me. "That I hope so," I whispered, fumbling for the right words amidst so many feelings. "But it takes time. Look at us. We're still figuring it out." Charlie nodded, clutching the glass like it was a lifeline. "What if he hurts us again?" My heart cracked at his vulnerability. "Then we will face it together. You and me. Always." For a moment, hope flickered between USA fragile filigree shining through the agony. Maybe we could build something new, a mosaic of past and present that rejected the notion of darkness consuming us. Just then, the doorbell rang, slicing through the warmth of our vulnerable exchange. My body went rigid, shoulders tightening instinctively. What now? The shadows outside might have stirred to action. "Stay here," I instructed Charlie, inching towards the door with reluctance. I glimpsed through the peephole and froze. A fateful chill rippled down my spine. Greg stood on the porch, hands shoved deep in his pockets, an expression of anxiety framing his face as he shifted under the moon's gaze. Why was he back? Couldn't the universe grant us a moment to breathe? With a quick breath and a glance back at Charlie, who was peeking from the kitchen, I gripped the door handle, my heart hammering with the weight of the decision looming before me. Would I open it, inviting a past laden with uncertainty, or would I shut it tight, protecting what I could for my son? For one heartbeat, the world paused, suspended on the precipice of choices laden with consequence. And in that silence, the future felt impossibly fragile, teetering on the brink of everything I feared, yet hoped for, a promise of healing wrapped in a cascade of unforeseen challenges that might await us. What awaited us on the other side of that door? Would it be salvation or despair? For every answer, there might be 1,000 new questions waiting, eager to fill the void. And as I opened the door, I stepped into the unknown, determined to confront whatever lay ahead. The door creaked open, the groan echoing like an old memory surfacing. Greg stood before me, his face lit by the pale glow of the moon, casting shadows that danced across his features. I could see the weariness etched into his skin, the telltale creases of late nights and sleepless thoughts. My heart was aflame with a blend of anger, fear, and a flicker of hope that I loathed to acknowledge. "Can we talk?" he asked, voice steady yet strained, as if the very air between us was heavy with unspoken words that I hesitated, my instincts on high alert. "Why now?" I questioned, my tone sharp, slicing through the night air. "What do you want, Greg?" He flinched, the words barbed, hitting him in places I couldn't see. "I need to explain. About everything," he replied, the pleading in his eyes softening the edges of my rage. I glanced over my shoulder, catching sight of Charlie still lingering in the kitchen, curiosity painted all over his young face. I felt for him. How much had he already absorbed? How much more could he bear? "Please," Greg added, stepping forward, longing breaking his usually guarded demeanor. The last remnants of my defenses crumbled as I felt the fragile string of hope he clung to. Perhaps this time, he truly wanted to connect. "Okay." I relented slowly, holding the door wide enough for him to slip through, but still keeping myself rooted in the safety of my childhood home. "But Charlie's here. You can't just talk about yourself. You have to think about how this affects him." "I know. I promise," he nodded, though I saw the apprehension flicker in his eyes as he stepped inside, the weight of his presence filling the space around us. "Charlie, come here," I called, my voice a tender command that wrapped around his small frame. He approached slowly, eyes darting between us, uncertainty smudged across his brow. "Hey, buddy, your dad wants to talk," I said, feeling my throat tighten. This would change everything again. Greg knelt down to Charlie's level, his expression morphing into something raw and vulnerable. "Hey, champ," he started softly, the nickname hanging in the air, heavy with nostalgia. "I know things have been tough. I want you to know I'm really sorry for the hurt I've caused. I'm working on being better." Charlie's gaze flicked to me, searching for reassurance. I offered a small nod, trying to suppress my conflicting emotions. I wanted to believe, but trust was an unsteady bridge, one that felt almost impossible to traverse. "That I saw you out in the woods," Charlie blurted out, his voice thick with accusation. "I thought you were someone else." Pain flickered across Greg's features, transforming into guilt as he searched for the right words. "That was a mistake," he said, the heaviness of his voice reflecting his remorse. "I go out at night to think, and I didn't mean to scare you. Why don't you just come home? We need you there, Dad." Charlie's voice broke, the plea genuine, echoing through the spacious room, filling the empty places I had tried to guard. Those words pierced me. It was so simple in their request, yet layered with complexity. Could Greg really be the anchor he suggested he wanted to be? "Do you want me to come back?" Greg asked, his eyes flicking between us with the fervor of someone who desperately craved acceptance but feared rejection again. Yet Charlie whispered, the quiet depth of his resolve filling the room, wrapping around the both of us like a shawl against the cold. Tears instantly pooled in my eyes, and I hastily blinked them away. "You know it's not that simple," I interjected gently, fisting my hands at my sides. "It's not just about showing up. It's about being reliable, about being there, every day." Greg nodded, solemn. "I understand. I'm trying," he said, desperation glimmering in the moonlight. "I need a chance to fix this. For you both." Despite my heart shouting to run back into the safety of solitude, I could see the cracks in him, the man I once loved, who had strayed so far from grace but was reaching out, wanting to carve a renewed path. "Tell me how you know the mess you've made. How can this time be different?" My voice trembled, bearing my soul. Part of me wanted to scream, to question why he had put us through this storm. Yet, another part longed to believe his transformation was possible. "I have a plan," he said, speaking quickly, eyes alight as he outlined logistical details, but they washed over me like a distant echo. My mind was racing elsewhere, a darkness hovering at the periphery of my thoughts. What if he faltered again? What if this all came crashing down around us like a house of cards? And the last flicker of hope I dared to conjure would only end up a twisted regret. Before I could encapsulate my fears into coherent words, a sudden crash echoed through the houseo window, shattering in the back. The fragility of our moment collided violently with reality, and I felt the floor tremble beneath my feet. "Mom!" Charlie shrieked, fear clawing at his voice as he darted behind me, his small form a warm, terrified weight against my back. "Stay here," I ordered, adrenaline searing my veins as my heart raced anew. Greg moved past me, fury and protectiveness igniting within him. Fear felt like chains tightening around my heart. In that moment, I grappled with an unsettling realization: would I ever be free? Free from the darkness that sought to bind us all. And as I met Greg's desperate gaze, I saw reflected in it both the potential for healing and the silhouette of danger lurking just beyond our grasp. We dashed towards the sound, every instinct screaming at me that this was just another layer to the complex tapestry of our lives. What awaited us might fracture the fragile hope we had begun to weave, or it might reveal a deeper truth that neither of us saw coming, one that would test our resolve and heart all over again. The air in the house was electric, thick with tension and the scent of fear as the three of us moved cautiously toward the sound of the shattered glass. My heart thudded loudly in my chest, echoing the dread swirling in my stomach. I could feel Charlie's tiny hands grip my waist as he edged closer, a physical reminder of the innocence that was always at stake. "Stay close," I whispered, trying to mask my own apprehension with an air of calm I didn't feel. Greg was already several steps ahead, his stride determined as he rounded the corner into the darkened hall. Every shadow felt alive, taunting us, amplifying the growing sense of dread. "Greg," I hissed, but he was already gone, a figure cloaked in darkness, moving toward the back door like a soldier charged with defending his home. My voice caught in my throat as I glanced down at Charlie, whose wide eyes reflected the raw terror I felt inside. "Is Dad going to be okay?" he asked, his voice trembling. Turning my heart to ice, I knelt down, pulling him close, wrapping my arms around him like a shield against the world. "I think he will be," I said, struggling to mask my uncertainty. "He just needs to figure things out." The words felt flimsy on my tongue, more of a wish than a promise. A shout erupted from outside, slicing through the silence. "Who's there?" Greg's voice rang out, sturdy and fierce. My body went rigid at the hostility in his tone. "Maybe we should call the cops," I suggested, the thought racing through my mind as I grabbed my phone, fingers trembling as I fumbled to dial. Just then, a shadow burst through the doorway, a rushing figure engulfed in chaos, silhouetted against the moonlit night. It was a woman, her cheeks streaked with dirt, wild hair swirling around her like a tempest. "Please, help me. They're coming," she cried, stumbling into the house, her eyes fraught with panic. "Who?" Greg demanded, stepping protectively in front of us, arms wide, ready to ward off any threat. It was that instinct, that fierce determination to protect, that drew me back. My mind raced. Fight or flight? Who was she? What was happening outside? 1,000 questions surged like a tide, but I couldn't let chaos drown out the moment. Charlie buried his head against me, and I smoothed his hair, murmuring calming words, though inside, I felt as shaken as he was. "They're not far behind." The woman gasped, breathless, clutching her side. Her presence, while alarming, sparked something in me, a flicker of solidarity in the face of terror. "Who are you?" Greg's voice broke through my tumultuous thoughts, reminding me that we were no longer alone in our struggle. "I am Sarah," she stammered, eyes darting nervously toward the rear of the house. "I escaped from them. They broke into my place. Please, you have to help me." The gravity of her admission wrapped around us like a snare. I exchanged a quick glance with Greg, and in that fleeting moment, I saw a flicker of empathy in his eyes. We both understood the weight of her plea, the echoes of our own hidden struggles hanging in the air. "Convey what's going on, Sarah," I said, gently but with a firmness I hoped communicated safety. "You're safe here for now. Just tell us what happened." "They're there after something I saw. I wasn't supposed to be there. I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. They think I know something that I don't," she stammered, panic spilling from her voice, intermingled with an underlying truth that gripped at my heart. As she spoke, Greg remained on high alert, his posture protective yet cautious. My instinct pulled me close to him. This stranger's terror had thrust us into the midst of a new storm. A ripple of uncertainty flooded the air, but there was an unspoken bond forming in the space between us, layered with compassion, layered beneath fear. "That I need you to stay strong, Sarah," I said, my voice steady even as my insides churned. "We'll figure this out together." That moment, another crash echoed from outside, sharper and more ominous than before. My breath hitched. Greg exhaled sharply, the protective father instinct taking over. "We need to get you to safety," he said to Sarah, breaking into action. But before we could move, the front door swung wide open, and a man stood silhouetted in the threshold, a stranger with a menacing aura, eyes glinting with malice. "Where is she?" he shouted, voice booming and relentless. "You can't hide her." That one terrifying moment hung suspended in time, each heartbeat a drum roll of imminent danger. I felt Charlie tug at my sleeve. I had to protect him. I had to hold him close and be his shield. "Run," Greg shouted, and instinctively my feet carried me, dragging Charlie with me. The room erupted into chaos, and I realized in that gut-wrenching second that I had placed my faith in hope once more, and now it was clashing with the darkness we had desperately tried to evade. As I glanced back to Greg, the very embodiment of courage and my emotional anchor, I felt the ground beneath me shift. The woman, the darkness, the danger, they spun together wildly, threatening to snatch away everything I had tried to hold close. And in that blink, the fragile hope I had felt flicker now loomed over us like a storm cloud ready to burst, pushing us into an abyss I couldn't foresee. As chaos erupted around us, the fear pressed tight against my heart like a vice. In this moment, life pivoted on the edge of uncertainty, each breath imbued with the weight of our choices, the lives intertwined, broken yet longing for the light that seemed perpetually out of reach. Charlie, to the back, I urged, gripping his small hand firmly as we navigated through the entangled shadows of the room, adrenaline propelling me forward. My mind raced, mapping out potential routes, searching for an escape while the air thickened with dread. I stole a glance over my shoulder to see Greg confronting the newcomer, his body a shield, his resolve unwavering in the face of danger. I had always admired that strength in him, yet here it was mingled with trepidation so much hinged on this moment. But Charlie's safety eclipsed everything else. We dashed into the small hallway leading to the back door, the darkness closing in, almost tangible. Each step felt like a race against time, against an oncoming tide of uncertainty and despair. "We have to trust each other, buddy," I whispered, my voice an anchor in the maelstrom. "No matter what happens, they'll be right here." He nodded, and I could see the flickering light of courage battling the shadows in his young eyes. It fueled me forward. This precious boy still contained a glimmer of hope, and that spark reminded me of the love we had fought so hard to hold on to amidst the brutality of our past. As we reached the back door, I paused, vowing to look back for a heartbeat catch a view of the life we were leaving behind, a silent prayer for the man who had both fractured and redeemed my heart. The weight of unresolved emotions tangled temptingly with the yearning for safety, but when I turned, it was only to find an empty living room that a chill skated down my spine. "Where is he?" I murmured, panic igniting as I realized Greg was still inside, strapping himself to an unseen battle. Then Charlie tugged at my sleeve, forcing my attention back toward the door, the cold air rushing in, beckoning us into the sanctuary of the world outside, "that we have to go," he urged, fear lacing his tone as he pulled me toward the shadows of the yard. With a quick glance back, I spotted the edge of the figure's menacing silhouette moving fluidly across the front, still searching for Sarah. Unnerved, I felt the urgency climb as a primal instinct roared within Marin. The cool air wrapped around us like a blanket, each hurried breath catching the crispness of nightfall as we sprinted toward the tall trees lining the yard. My heart pounded, the rhythm on the brink of overtaking my thoughts, but the steady pulse of love for Charlie grounded me. "Mom? What's happening?" His voice trembled as we dove deeper into the embrace of the shadows, fear spilling over in hesitant questions. I wanted to shield him from everything, but I couldn't help but feel the walls closing in. Furtively, I touched the edge of my pocket where my phone lay. Should I call for help, alert the authorities, or trust that Greg could resolve things? The guilt pressed into my chest like a heavy weight, so I forced a calmness I barely felt. "That I don't know, sweetheart. But whatever happens, we'll face it together." Like always, I tightened my grip around his small hand, bolstering the courage flickering in his eyes like fireflies against the night. "We'll find a way out," he nodded, reassured in our connection, and I pushed back the voices whispering fear into the crevices of my mind. But beneath the surface lay an unsettling thought. Greg was still facing whatever danger had invaded our lives. Would he emerge unscathed? As we reached the far edge of the yard, a loud crash erupted behind us, a sound like shattering glass breaking through the night. The ground felt impossibly solid beneath my feet as I hesitated, torn between the safety of distance and the instinct to protect. "Greg, let's keep going, Mommy." Charlie tugged at me, his urgency pulling me into motion. I forced myself to run forward, into the darkness, where hope lay not just in the distance, but within the resolve we both clung to. Promise of one another. "What about Dad?" he pleaded, the edge of worry carving deeply into his voice. The ache of that question clung to my heart, raw and relentless. "He's gonna be okay, right?" I didn't respond right away. I wasn't sure. Charlie looked up at me, his innocence flashing in the dim light, as if my reaction could rewrite reality. "Mommy?" he asked again, quieter now, his eyes searching mine for the truth he needed to hear, one woven with certainty, love, and comfort. I inhaled sharply, realizing that I had a choice, and in that moment, what resonated was the unwavering truth that had anchored me through every storm. "He's strong, and he loves you." "Well, bring him back," I said, drawing strength from the bond we shared, the shared love that would guide us unerringly. It felt like a promise, charged with Hopian unbreakable thread binding our destinies still. With each step we took away from the house, the night faded, and as we reached the tree line, I felt the flickering of courage ignite again. A quiet determination washed over me. There was a path ahead, and despite the world threatening to buckle around us, I knew I wouldn't allow that darkness to claim more of the light we cherished together. And then, as the trees closed in around us, I heard a voice on the wind, Greg, calling my name. His voice fragmented but filled with urgency. The shift rippled through the night. This was where the heart of the story converged: pain, longing, and renewal. Mom. Over here. Charlie's soft voice broke through the trepidation, and suddenly I was reminded once more of our power amid adversity. Together, we would conquer the shadows that lurked in the corners of our lives, refusing to allow the past to dictate our future. As I turned back, ready to face whatever came next, I whispered a silent promise to myself and to Charlie that I would always fight for the light, for love, and for the future we deserved. The uncertainties ahead could storm against us, but I would let nothing dim the light we had reclaimed. After all, light only needed space to bloom slowly, steadily, undeterred by darkness. With Charlie by my side, I felt the strength of our connection burn bright, unwavering. Together, okay? I said, squeezing his hand, and I was met with his firm nod, firm belief spilling from those innocent eyes yet again. Together, we would return. Together, we would heal. Together, we would light the way. And as we stepped back toward the chaos unfolding behind us, I knew we would create something beautiful from all the broken pieces that had once defined us. Let's go, I said, pulling him along, our footsteps echoing into the vast unknown, resolute against the shadows of yesterday, stepping fiercely into the dawn that awaited us on the other side. For every shattered moment, we would weave a new light, and in that light, we would find our way home.